filled with worship. We're going to play a couple games, and our teaching is going to be great. We're so glad that you are here. And now we are going to play a game with Macias and Rob.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for coming out. All right. I believe we're going to be playing a little bit of a crazy game. So you all know fall has started. It's that season. All right. The pumpkins are out. You good, man? Yeah.
Keep going. You're good. Right. You're on a roll.
So we're going to be playing Pumpkin Smash. All right. Now,
so, yeah, we're going to try something here. And so I'm going to need, where's Colin or Jay? We need to spread out some tarps here because this is going to be a little bit of a messy game. So I'm going to need a couple people that don't care if they get a little messy. We got a bunch of big old bags of Halloween candy here. So let's get... hold on. I'm looking. Marcus, let's get Marcus up here. And Sophie, everybody's pointing at you. You don't care. You're gonna get a little dirty at this. Why here? Why are we having some trouble? So where are all my other leaders?
we're working on it. We got no one. Where are they? All right. We got.
I don't know. I thought they were just going to pull right apart, and they're like sticky. Marius, here, help out. Here, we're going to do this. I'm going to explain the game to you guys so you all know what's going to happen. Here in a second, we're going to put these tarps on the actually, we'll put it right here on stage in the very front. And you guys are going to get, we'll use the 1 minute countdown. 1 minute countdown, or until I just say stop. And what you're going to do is, you are going to smash the pumpkins as much as you can in 1 minute. Whoever has smashed their pumpkin the best will win the prizes tonight. All right, so tonight we're just going to go full bag of candy for Halloween coming up. So, yeah, let's roll that out of the way. Just do that, yep. And just set that right on stage there. And then let's put that other tarp down right. You can kind of even put it over it if you want. And then we will put that right there. This is going to get, I know, those tarps are a little tricky. So, help him out so he knows what's going on. So they'll take that from you. Colin will get that. So, Marcus, did you hear what we're doing? Okay, so you are going to have 1 minute to smash the pumpkins as much as you can. If your pumpkin is smashed more than Sophia's, you win. If Sophia's pumpkin is smashed more, she wins. Here are the rules, though. Marcus asked, what do I use? What do you use to smash a pumpkin? Anybody? A hammer? No, not tonight. What else do you use to smash a pumpkin with? Your fist? Who's walking around punching pumpkins? Is that what? All right, no, you are not going to get to use your fist. What else do you use to smash a pumpkin? Your feet. No, you're not going to get to use your feet. Yes. You may throw a pumpkin down, but that's not how you're going to do it. You can smash the pumpkin with anything other than your feet or your hands. I said feet and I did this. So you can use all the rest of your body however you want to do it, but you just cannot smash it. Your hands cannot hit it. You cannot kick it, all right?
Creativity.
So whatever else you want to do, that's how you're going to smash the pumpkin, all right? So we need some pumpkin smashing music back there, Chase. And here's what we will do tonight, actually. Since we'll just have Sophia represent all the girls here tonight. So Sophia, if you guys win, we'll just toss out. You can go around and just pass out candy to all the girls, okay? Marcus, you are representing all of the young men here tonight, all right? You're representing all the men. So if you win, we'll just double up. We'll double up the candy bags, and you can throw it out to any guys that are here tonight, okay? So now you are allowed, if you need to, if you need to adjust the pumpkin at all, you can kind of move it with your feet or however. So you don't have to do it with the stem side up, however you want to do. You just have to smash it, but you cannot use your feet or your hands, all right? Any other way, you can go at it. I don't recommend headbutting it, but you can use whatever else you want. All right, you got something back there? Are we ready, Chase? All right, so you need to cheer on your guy or your girl. All right, we'll put 1 minute on the countdown. Huh? You can't pick it up. No. It's there. You can't use your hands. No hands at all. Cannot use your hands, all right? Cannot use your hands, okay? Any other way. Actually, you can't use your feet in any way either, all right? No using your feet at all. Do this. I don't care. No feet, no hands, no matter what, all right? I'm changing that rule, okay? Here we go. Are you ready? As soon as the music hits, we will go in 3, 2, 1, go for it! Smash that pumpkin! Oh, don't. Careful. Come on. Ah! Guys, like, just start sitting on it. Sit on it or anything.
There's breakage. I see cracks.
Just jump on it. Oh my gosh! Guys, Sophia, just sit on it, Sophia. Just sit on it. Yeah, keep doing that. Knee it, whatever you want. Marcus. Oh, Sophia.
I don't know what's happening.
It's just.
He's got it in the elbow hole.
Come on, Sophia. Oh, Sophia. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. All right. I think we got a winner.
Who would you say?
All right. I believe Marcus may have won. How did you?
Really?
Mark, you did that with your elbows? Just smashed it right in half. So we used to do this game all the time years ago. No one's ever done what you did. Everybody just started dropping on their knees, and then they just started like jumping on it with their elbows. And you guys just like went like MMA fighting, just started dropping elbows on it. Sophia, are you okay? Because you're just tapping on it over and over. She's just like doing this a lot. All right. Sophia, go ahead. I'm going to give it up for Sophia, and you get a bag of candy corn because it's like, hey, Marcus. All right, you go. Give candy to all the men and keep some for yourself. And we'll just save this because this is completely unharmed. I'm sorry, Sophia. It's not even a scratch in it. Hey, let's get all of this trash picked up real quick. No, we're going to use that for something else now. We'll keep it. No, that pumpkin will stay there. He's not sharing. All right. Hey, gentlemen. Wow. While Mark is sending out candy, I'm going to have a couple of our students come up here and do some very important announcements for Fall Escape.
Hello, everyone. Next week we have Fall Escape, which is my favorite retreat of the whole year. It's going to be Wednesday through Friday of next week. You stay overnight at 3 Trails Camp. So if you haven't already signed up, sign up because it's the best weekend of your life. It's just a really great way to like take a break from your life and relax a little bit and have fun with your friends. So sign up for Fall Escape, and I hope to see all of you guys there.
Okay, Fall Escape is my favorite retreat we do here. It's a little bit more chill and laid back than some of our other events. So this is a great first like church retreat to go to. So middle schoolers, if you've never been to a church retreat, sign up for this one. Talk to your parents, make sure that you are there, invite your friends, and it'll be a lot of fun.
We were getting rid of everything. All right, we got another game actually because we want to do a quick game for everybody to get a chance to win and everybody a chance to play. So I think we have a little video that cues up this game. So let's check out the screen really quick. This is just a little demo for candy corn. And it's just a really simple how you can properly eat candy corn. How dare you?
Only good news.
So let's get a quick survey. Macias, do you like candy corn?
No.
So How many of you in here like candy corn? Raise your hand.
You're wrong or you're liars. Lying, wrong.
How many of you here don't like candy corn?
Amen.
I will say, last year it was a little more towards the don't like, so you guys are going a little on the other direction here. So if you do like candy corn, we're going to do a little game.
Sadness.
We're going to do a little game here and give you guys a chance to win some candy corn, okay? So this is a little true or false for candy corn. Here you go, Macias. You maybe try a bite if you want. So I'm going to have everybody stand up, everybody stand up, everybody stand up. These are all going to be true or false questions. What do we want? Like true?
Yeah. I'll
So-
see thumbs up for true, thumbs down for false, and I want to see it clear up in the sky, real high.
Yeah, none of this. All right, so everybody can play if you want. Hey, if you get it wrong, sit down. You are out. All right, sit down and you are out. Macias, why don't you go ahead and read these slides to him? Let's go ahead and put up the first one there, Chase.
We got our first question up there. October 30th is National Candy Corn Day. True or false? Let's see those hands. All right, let's give you a second to figure it out.
high. True or false?
True or false? Everyone got one? All right, let's see that answer. Be honest. True.
True. Oh, boy.
Man, that was a hard hit.
Ooh, okay.
this is my
That's
weapon.
half the
Okay.
crowd right there. All right.
Let's see the next question. I don't even know, man. Okay, over 20 billion kernels are sold each year. No. Maybe
Well, how
7.
many are in a bag? Like, what do you think?
I mean, like, I'd estimate maybe 400? No, 200.
Oh, 15 pieces, and it serves 15. What's 15 times 15?
Yeah, that's...
Sounds good. 300. I like that math.
Let me give you some 95.
325. So that's in each bag. So, all right.
That's a whole
All
lot.
right, true or false? What do you think?
Let's see it.
All right. False.
Get down. I see you back there. Yeah, you're
If
good.
you said false, or you said true, you are out.
We're getting slim over on this side. All right. Let's take a look at the next question. The candy corn name is now owned by Nestle. Nestle?
Nestle, like Nestle chocolate, Nestle.
Oh, Nestle Crunch. All right. True or false? Let's see those hands.
Well,
Up high. Up
I
high.
mean,
We got it
this
up,
is
we got it
rocks,
down.
so.
We got it up, we got it down. We got it up, we got it down. Hey, what is that? What? You were sticking out this.
None of this.
All right.
All right.
We got it. Let's do that answer. False.
False. Candy corn is currently owned by Jelly Belly.
No, I was putting behind you. It's okay.
How's that? Like, this is a bag of Brock's, and it says candy corn on it.
Sugar triangles. Oh, so bad. All right. Let's see the next. Ooh, it's already up there. Candy corn was originally made to be a cat treat. That's what it should be.
It should be.
I mean, I don't even see my cat liking this. I don't even have a cat.
Both of which are some of my least favorite things in the world right
Got it
there.
up,
Candy corn.
got it up, we got it
And
down.
cats.
We got it up, we got
Both of them.
If everyone's up. No one wants to switch because
Ooh,
it's going to
yeah.
be the win.
No, Ray says false.
Right,
All right.
says false. All right, let's see it.
False. Ah!
He won.
Race, did you just win?
Oh, wow, he just won.
Hey, good job, Race.
All right, hey, I warned you.
What? Did you say true?
Yeah,
Sit down.
don't lie.
Race, do you like candy corn? Yeah, it would have been funny if you walked over to the trash can and just dropped it in there. We'll keep the extra bag for later. We'll keep it for something later.
Okay, I'm so glad. Now we know all those facts about candy corn. Okay, so now we're going to head into a time of worship, and I just encourage y'all to come to the front. So feel free to start making your way up here now, just so you can worship with us. So let's pray real quick before we worship. Dear Lord, I just thank you so much just for this sweet night and for sweet community and sweet friends and for silly, fun games, God. I just pray that you would soften our hearts tonight during worship and we would see you move and just change us. And we love you so much and we're so grateful for you. And it's in your great name I pray. Amen.
How's everybody doing this evening? Good, I'm glad. We're going to sing a few songs together. So have fun with this and sing along. Here we go, come on. I was walking the wayside, lost on a lonely road. I was chasing the high life, trying to satisfy my soul. All the lies I believed in left me crying like the rain. Then I saw lightning from heaven, and I've never been the same. I'm gonna climb a mountain, I'm gonna shout about it. I am a child of love. I found a world of freedom, I found a friend in Jesus. I am a child of love. I felt the sting of the fire, but I saw you in the flames. Just when I thought it was over, you broke me out of the grave. I'm gonna climb a mountain, I'm gonna shout about it. I am a child of love. I found a world of freedom, I found a friend in Jesus. I am a child of love. Yeah, yeah, whoa, whoa. I am a child of love. Yeah, yeah, whoa, whoa. I am a child of love. Nothing can change the way you love me. Nothing can change the way I belong to you. Yes, I do. Nothing can separate. Sing that again with us. Nothing can change the way you love me. Nothing can change the way. Oh, I belong to you. Yes, I do. Nothing can separate. Let's hear it, come on. I'm gonna climb a mountain. I am a child of love. I found a world of freedom. I am a child of love. I'm gonna climb a mountain, I'm gonna shout about it. I am a child of love. I found a world of freedom, I found a friend in Jesus. I am a child of love. Yeah, yeah, oh, oh, I am a child of love. Yeah, yeah, oh, oh, I am a child of love. He came from glory, took on flesh to save the lost, grace and mercy displayed upon the cross, our redemption. He's the hope for all mankind, one name over everything, one name over everything. Jesus over everything, He reigns forevermore. Our song for all eternity, Jesus Christ is Lord. Who a resurrected King. In one moment, He brought death to its knees. All the power, oh, and all authority to one name over everything. One name over everything. Jesus over everything. He reigns forevermore. Our song for all eternity. Jesus Christ is Lord. Oh, Jesus over everything. He reigns forevermore. Our song for all eternity. Jesus Christ is Lord. Proclaim these things to the Father, sing over fear, over shame, over all anxiety, over troubles and all pain, over sickness and disease. For He reigns on the throne, all praise to Him alone. One name over everything, over death and all sin, over hell, over the grave. Darkness bows and demons flee at the mention of His name. For He reigns on the throne, all praise to Him alone. One name over everything. Oh, Jesus over everything. He reigns forevermore. Our song for all eternity. Jesus Christ is Lord. Oh, and Jesus over everything. He reigns forevermore. Our song for all eternity. Jesus Christ is Lord. Oh, our song for all eternity. Jesus Christ is Lord. Oh, Jesus Christ is Lord.
Go ahead, find your way back to your seats, guys. We are gonna finish up here. Do you need this back? Okay. I'll make sure not to lose. So we've been kind of doing. Oh no. We've been kind of doing a little different series here, and it's funny talking to you guys about this series because the stuff we're looking at has been in the book of Judges. And some of the stories in the book of Judges there's just some weird stories in the book of Judges. And so a couple weeks ago, well, each time it always kinds of talks about how these judges were used by God in certain ways, and they were called by God. And so I want to real quick just give a recap to understand what we're looking at here. In the book of Judges, this was a time before Israel had a king. And so you got to go way, way, way back in time here. So imagine the fact that you have a bunch of people, you've moved into a new land, and there's no clear leadership. But all of these men and women had been called to follow after God. And so we need to remember that part right there, okay? Before we go on any further. You need to remember that they were called to follow after God, and God said, continue to let me be the leader over you, just like he had done with Moses, just like he had done with Joshua, leading up into this time. And so during this time, people started kind of following away and were no longer following God. And so in the book of Judges, we saw from the very beginning that it talks about how everybody was just kind of doing whatever they wanted. And if they didn't have a leader, and God said, if you don't follow after me, and you don't do the things I've asked you to do, you're going to start being conquered by other people. Now, this was a different time and a different day. So we need to keep that part in mind. At this time of day, if you had, if Grain Valley, all right, I'll just use Grain Valley as an example. If Grain Valley just kind of did their own thing and they didn't have any leader or clear ruler, well then Blue Springs might be like, hey, I bet we are strong enough, we could probably take Grain Valley over. Those, they don't look like they know what they're doing at all. They're just all messing around, they don't even have a king. And so this is kind of, you got to understand the time and the era of time, what was taking place. So then maybe Blue Springs would just be like, let's just go take them over. And they would go to war with Grain Valley. And then, Grain Valley was like, oh, no. And so now that they took them over, they would often use them as servants or slaves. And so this was kind of the time period which is taking place. So God had told Israel, as long as you follow after me, I will make sure these other nations, they won't defeat you. Just keep, God was basically saying, I am your king. Follow after the laws and the things that I have told Moses, all of these things that you know how to live by. You know how to live by these things. But then people weren't. And in Judges, we read that verse a few weeks ago where it said everybody just did what they saw fit, what they thought was right in their own eyes. They were just kind of like, well, I want to do this. Well, I want to do this. Well, I want to do this. And if you've ever been around a group of people where 5 people all want to do their own thing, it's just chaotic. There's nothing happens. Go play a game with little kids, little 4-year-olds, where they just make up rules all the time and everybody just does whatever they want. And this is kind of what was taking place in Israel. And so when we look at Judges, God would use these judges and say, hey, I'm going to rise up. Who lives in Grain Valley? Let's stay with the whole Grain Valley thing. All right, Quentin, all right? So you might say, hey, Grain Valley, you should have been following me, all right? And this is kind of what they were saying. He's like, so I'm going to rise up Quentin, and you are going to become a great leader. And so God was using these judges saying, I will be I have chosen you to lead the people back and get free. So as a weird example, it would be like, I chose Quentin, and he's going to lead Grain Valley out of freedom from the evil Blue Springs, all right? And then if Quentin did that, all the people from Grain Valley were like, oh, thank you. And Quentin would say, we all need to keep following after God. God gave us this victory, and he gave us our freedom again. And this is what kept taking place. Over and over and over, God would rise up a judge, and there would be a time where they were doing really well, and they were following after God. And then they would turn away from God. And then they all just started doing whatever they want again. And they would get taken back over by people. And this happened. And then the people would they would get upset. And they would get hurt. And they were like, God, please, why have you left us? Where are you, God? And he's like, you left me. But then he would rise up another judge, okay? So maybe he's like, all right, well, during Quentin's time, Quentin brought him back to God. But all the people are all doing what he wants. And so then he goes over and he's like, Sophia, you're the new judge. And then Sophia led great victories. Now, hey, I've been asked by some students, man, the past few weeks at Exodus, all you guys are talking about is murder. It's not, you gotta remember though, these were nations at war with each other. And so some of these stories do have that in there. But they weren't just going around stab, 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 you're dead. It was these were warring nations, and so these happened. So then maybe Sophia became this leader, and she was able to defeat a bunch of people from Blue Springs. And then all the people were like, yes, we will get our freedom back again. And then Sophia would say, now all of you in Grain Valley, let's follow God again. When we follow God, we are a strong nation or a strong city in this illustration. And then the people are like, yes, we'll follow God. And then eventually they're like, oh, you know what? Let's forget about God. And then they would go back to doing whatever they want. And then the surrounding people would come and attack them again. This happened over and over and over in the book of Judges. And this is why some of these stories are crazy, but this is why these things are happening. So you got to understand, Israel kept getting attacked by these foreign countries, their neighboring nations that would just take them over because they wanted to make their area bigger. And every time when they were following after God, God would keep them safe and he would give them victory. And every time it said the people would cry out. And every time, I don't know if you've noticed this the past 2 weeks, but every time it says the people cried out, what would happen? Do what? Something good. God would call, here, it says God heard their cries and would raise up a judge. And so we've been looking at these different judges, and today we're going to look at probably the one that if you grew up in a church, you probably have heard about, okay? And I don't know, let's just see if there's any, if anybody wants to give some good church answers here. Does anybody know of one judge that stands out in your mind, that maybe you remember? Moses, no, he was before Judges. Think really strong. Really strong. Not Judge Judy. A very strong judge. You probably heard about it in Sunday school class. What? Samson. All right, Samson. So, if you grew up in church as a kid, you probably heard about Samson at some point in time, all right? What was Samson known for? Anybody want to give me something Samson was known for? What? His strength, all right? He was known for his strength, and then there was one other thing they always talked about. What? His hair. Okay, his hair. So, Luke, you're going to be my Samson. Come on up here. Come on, you got that flowing hair, bro. All right, look at this. He's got some Samson. Did you cut it? It looks a little short. All right. So, here's what you got to know about. You got to show off the back of it. Look at that. Yeah, let it flow. Let it flow. All right. So, here's the thing with Samson, okay? We're going to look at Samson was the last judge that is in the book of Judges. And so he had some parents, and an angel comes to him and says, hey, you are going to give birth to a judge, and you are to make sure that he doesn't eat or drink certain things. And then he said, and he will be raised like a Nazarene, which was one of the tribes in Israel. And he said, because of that, do not cut his hair. For his whole life, don't cut his hair. And this will be like to show people the source of strength and that he is following after God. And so because of that, so let's just imagine you never cut that beautiful mullet. Like that thing would be, we're talking like horsetail style. Yeah, it would just be a flowing, beautiful, let's go for it, all right? You got until high school, all right? Let's grow that thing out. So here's the deal, all right? Now, Samson here, when you were in Sunday school, you probably, Chase, did I put those pictures of some of these? You probably saw stuff like this, okay? Where there was like, the cartoon version of Samson, okay? And Luke, you can go sit down. I may use you again. And then, okay, so does anybody remember what's happening here? Church kids, any church kids remember what's going on there? What do you think? Yeah. You remember the pictures, right? Because they like teaching this in Sunday school, but we're going to get a little deeper than Race, what's happening here? He's getting those reps in, yeah. Something like that. So we'll get to it. We'll get to it here. Yeah, and then I love this because I even found you can find a Samson posable superhero here. That's like a little, like a toy you can buy for your kid. Now, here's what's funny, all right? Much like the Old West, okay? We've been doing our Old West theme. And we talked about how a lot of times Old West tales can be glamorized. And you'll watch movies with outlaws, and sometimes they're even cheering on the outlaws, or bank robberies and all this stuff. And you're like, ooh, I kind of like the bad guy. And we can glamorize the Old West. And we joked about the first week how everybody thinks cowboys and stuff was a really cool time. But honestly, most people died before they even reached age 40 in the Old West eyes. But we kind of glamorize all that stuff. And much like we did with Old West times, we've really glamorized Samson's story. And the fact that some of you guys are like, oh yeah, I learned about him in Sunday school, and I remember seeing that picture, and he's super strong and long hair. We have this idea he was a professional wrestler or something, or a superhero like Thor, or oh, he's just this, flowing man, and he did good things, right? But we don't realize, it's funny that we teach this stuff, but we leave out little things that what Samson did was kind of messed up. And so before we really get into it, just starting in chapter 13 and then in 14 and 15, it just kind of talks about the things Samson did that they just kind of glossed over in Sunday school class, where they talked about it really quick. It talks about how when he was attacked by a lion and he had such strength that he grabbed it and he just ripped the lion's head in half and left the lion there for dead. And yeah, pretty messed up. They don't teach you that like in Sunday school class. They're like, and then kids, he grabbed a lion and he ripped its head off. And it gets even, so here's this toy figure that you could buy. You can order that thing online that they want to sell to children. But then he goes, just some messed up things, all right? He goes and he walks by that same lion later on, and bees had created a small hive inside the lion carcass, and they were making honey, like honey. So he goes and he scoops up a bunch of honeycomb out of the dead carcass, and he gives it to his parents, and it notes and says, but he did not tell his parents that it came from a dead carcass. So imagine walking home, all right, and you're walking along the sidewalk, and you see a dead animal, and some bees are like living in it, making honey, and you're like, ha, hey, mom, dad, here's some honey. This is what Samson did. These things that we don't always share. You remember the funny story, the cool stories, and we remember the long hair, but we don't like look at some of the messed up things. He got really mad at a bunch of people, and he tied up a bunch of foxes, and he lit their tails on fire and set them free in like their fields. So as foxes, what do you think would happen to a fox if you let it set its tail on fire? Huh? It would run. Yeah, and that's what he did. So Samson sat there laughing while 300 foxes, he just imagine like, who does that? Who's like, you know how I'll get even with you guys? I'm going to set a bunch of foxes on fire. And so he lights them on fire and runs them through a field. These are just some of the things that they probably didn't like hit in your Sunday school class growing up. We kind of look over some of these things. But here's the deal. We won't even get into like how he treated his wife and other women. Samson, the guy we hear about in Sunday school class, that you can buy his action figure, cheated on his wife multiple times. He was a constant womanizer. He did a lot of bad things. Now, why share this about a judge? You're like, why are we using this guy as our illustration? And I want to get to that. And I want to look at the scripture, and I want to see how God's point in sharing this in scripture and what that means for us. And so, although they never teach those things, we can still learn something, even if it's in a bad example in this case. There's always something you can learn from it when it's in the Bible. And so, as Samson does this, there's a group of people called the Philistines. And these were the people that had taken Israel over again. They were constantly attacking and taking over Israel. Every time they turned their back on God, Philistines would come in. Now God said, if you follow after me, I will give you victory over the Philistines. So stop doing that. But they kept going back and kept going back. In fact, this time, every time before the judge, it said the people cried out to God. And in this case, they never cried out to God. They had just given up. But even though they didn't cry out, God still sent a judge. He had blessed Samson with strength. He blessed him with everything he needed to be a great leader during that time. But Samson doesn't do that. He continues to use his blessing. He continued to use everything God had given him for his own selfishness. He continued to say, like, I know I have this amazing thing that God's given me, and God has called me to be this great leader, but all he uses it to do is to get his own way. He only uses it to gain his own fame, to gain his own money, and honestly, just to get women. And that's what he was doing with this blessing that God had given him. God had given him so much, but he did not use it in how he was called to use it. And so eventually, and you may have heard this name Delilah, all right? I don't know if it rings a bell to you. And not from the song, all right? But Delilah, he comes across this girl, and he sees her, and he's like, I fell in love with her. And so in Judges chapter 16, verse 4, and you can follow along if it's going to be on the screen here, it says, sometime later, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah, who lived in the valley of Sorek. The rulers of the Philistines went to her. Now, this is important, Delilah was a Philistine woman. Samson was called to be a great military leader to go against who? Philistines. Because the Philistines kept taking over Israel, all right? They were like Blue Springs taking over Grain Valley. Blue Springs, you're not bad people. I'm just using that as an illustration. So the very person, the very people he was called to lead military victory over and say, we don't want our people enslaved. We don't want them to be servants. Go against these people. And he's like, yeah, but I like that girl. And so he goes and he starts talking to this Philistine woman, all right? So the ruler of the Philistines went to her and said, entice Samson to tell you what makes him so strong so that he can be overpowered and tied up securely. Each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver. So this girl that he wants to date decides, I will go and I'm going to take all this money and I'm going to tie up this guy who likes me so that they can murder him, all right? Now, we haven't fully hit our relationship series yet, but gentlemen, if you start talking to a young lady and she takes money from people because they're going to tie you up and murder you, you should not date her, okay? Like, let's just make that a rule for dating. Here's what's crazy, though. You're like, yeah, duh. So here's what happens. Samson does this. She tries to do this, and he breaks free from it, and he goes out and he kind of beats up and takes care of business with a bunch of Philistine guys. And then they come back to her, and they say, do this again, get him again. So she's already betrayed him once, but Samson was so head over heels for this one girl who wasn't even supposed to be around anyway. Like God clearly said, remove the Philistines from Israel. This is your land. But instead, he's like, well, yeah, like, I know she's like, she tried to do that, but she's different now. I don't know if you've ever talked to any friends who like talk to a boy or a girl and you're like, they're no good for you. They're a jerk and they did this. And then like a week later, they're talking again. Well, just use that. But remember, she tried to murder him against a bunch of people. Like, no, she's different now, guys. Trust me. She promised me she's not going to try to kill me again. All right, this is what Samson was into here. So she does this again. Now, here's what happens. She goes, in verse 15, it says, then Delilah pouted. So she comes to him. And he's like, how can you tell me I love you when you don't share all your secrets with me? You made fun of me 3 times. What does that mean? It means 3 times she tried to do this. And 3 times he broke free because he kept lying to her, saying, well, this is what makes me strong. This is what. So 3 times, gentlemen, 3 times this girl tried to kill him, all right? And yet he still wants to hang out with her, all right? Because he's in love. And so what's the girl do to him? She just pouts, gives that little, but I thought you liked me. You keep tricking me. I keep trying to take away your strength and you don't tell me. And so it says she pouts about it. She tormented him with her nagging day after day until he was sick of it. So he's just worn out. He's like, I can't take it. All right, fine. Because she just kept talking to him about it. So finally, Samson shared his secret with her, okay? He says, my hair has never been cut, for I was dedicated to God as a Nazirite from birth. And if my head was shaved, my strength would leave me and I would become as weak as anyone. So he kind of does 2 things here. He knew that he was set aside from birth to be a great leader. And he also knows, I've never done that. But he goes on and he says, well, it's because of my hair. See, Samson had forgotten that it was not from his hair, but it was because of what God had done in his life. He'd forgotten that he had been blessed by God, and he doesn't even acknowledge that anymore. He says, it's because of my amazing hair. He makes it about himself, and he says, because of my hair, if you were to cut my hair, then my power would leave. And he completely leaves God out of the picture, knowing that's not what it was. But because of this, God finally removes his blessing on Samson and says, well, if you think it's for your hair, then I'll let it be from your hair then. If you're not even going to acknowledge the fact that I'm the one that's done this for you, then fine, let it be from your hair. And so what happens is he falls asleep, she cuts his hair, he wakes up weak, they trap him, all these Philistine men come in, they tie him up, they beat him, his head's shaved, and they take out his eyeballs. Yeah, yes, as in they remove his eyeballs. So now Samson is weak, he cannot see, and his head is shaved. And God, who gave him this incredible blessing to be this great military leader, to free Israel, here he is now, never acknowledged God in all of this, and he finds himself completely in the consequences of his own mistakes and sins. And so they bring him out at this banquet where all these people, all these Philistines are having this feast and this banquet, and they tie him up like a trophy, saying, we have caught this Samson, this man that Samson did. There was some battles and stuff in between there where he killed like thousands of Philistines. But he brought the glory to himself. He did it for himself. He would go to these battles, and he won this battle all by himself, where it said he killed thousands of these Philistines on his own, but he never went back to his people and said, look what God has done. You know, a couple weeks ago we talked about Ehud, how Ehud killed the king, but then he went back and he said, God has given victory to us this day. All the judges would bring glory to God, and then they would get this victory, and Israel would rise up as a nation again, proving like we follow God and God protects us. Well, Samson never did that. And so now you have Samson who would go and do these small victories, but then he would say, yeah, look, it was because of how strong I was. And he never led his people, pointing them to God and giving God glory. So now he's there, and you have that picture that they may have shown you in Sunday school where he's like tied up, to these pillars, and he's all strong and stuff. But at this point, he's not strong anymore. He's completely weakened, and he has no eyeballs because they've gouged them out. And he's weak, and he's sitting there. And only now does Samson finally pray to God. This is the first time we see Samson pray. And it says, Samson prayed to the Lord, saying, Sovereign Lord, remember me again, God. So now Samson's crying out. Now Samson's saying, God, please don't forget me. Please strengthen me just one more time. And with one blow, let me pay back the Philistines for the loss of my 2 eyes. So Samson put his hands on the 2 center pillars that held up this temple area. So he's kind of situated in the middle where there's beams, like these 2 beams, they hold up the patio that is above us. If those 2 beams are removed, the entire concrete patio outside falls down on us, all right? So, yeah, don't worry. These are sturdy beams, all right? Just a little bit of duct tape, some glue, you're totally safe. And so he is on these beams, all right? And so he says, Samson put his hands on the 2 center pillars that held up the temple. Pushing them against him with both hands, he prayed, Lord, let me die with the Philistines. And the temple crashed down on the Philistine rulers and the people. And so he killed more people when he died than he had done his entire lifetime. So in Samson's death, he actually did more than what he ever did when he was alive. But God had called him to be this military leader. Now, sometimes we read that story and we're like, see, Samson was the hero. But he wasn't. He wasn't the hero. In fact, even when he did that, he calls out to God for one more time for strength. But what is his prayer? He doesn't pray, he said, God, let me do this for one more time so that Israel can see your strength and they may follow after you. That's not his prayer. He says, God, give me one more blow so that I can pay them back for what they did to me. Even in his death, Samson made it about him. And even in his death, he was selfish and saying, I will do this and let me pay them back. But God allowed it, hoping that Israel would say, look what God has done. And they would rise up, be inspired by Samson's death. But they weren't. And they just sat there and they stayed under Philistines' rulership. Even in his death, Samson never did. So he's one of those judges that we teach kids about because there's cool stories like, look how strong he is, and he's got hair, and he's an action figure. But in reality, it's like, but he was the worst judge ever, most selfish, self-centered person that there was in the book of Judges. And he was given every blessing. He was given everything by God to be a great leader. Israel, and just catch this, guys. Israel was given everything they could to follow after God. And yet instead, they chose something less. They chose to live a life under their own slavery. They chose to live not under the rulership of God, but they chose to live under rulership of other things. In this life that God said, this is not what I wanted for you. And so, why do the book of Judges, all right? I've been asked that by a few people, and I got asked that by parents because some of you guys just told like the murder parts to your parents. And they're like, what are you teaching my kid on Wednesday night? They're just talking about how like people are getting stabbed, and like Matt talked about like, stabbing someone through the head and this. I'm like, you're missing the point of all of it. Why talk about Judges? Because the book of Judges like really shows why all of these things are so important. The book of Judges shows us when we sit there and we constantly have everything that we need. It shows that we can miss so often what God has done for us. It shows that no matter, like, God can give us everything we need, that we can still choose to live for other things. And so you look at Judges and you think, well, that's crazy. Like, why didn't they just follow after God? But then we can look at our own lives and we can think, why don't we do that? Like, God has given us so much, and He's blessed so many of you with so many things, and yet how often does our life reflect what God's done for us? See, I know Judges has crazy stories, but we live so often the same way. And I know in my life, I can live so often the same way, overlooking all the things God has put in our life, and we can choose other things too. We choose, like Israel had this opportunity. They didn't have to be enslaved by Philistines. They didn't have to allow these things to be under control of them. But yet, how often do we do this? How often do we allow things in our life to control us? Whether it's other relationships, it might be friends. You're like, why do I go along and I do the things that all my friends do? When you don't have to. It could be your phones and social media, and you're like, why am I just stuck on this? Why I want freedom from this. It can be some sort of addiction or things you're looking at that you know you shouldn't be. It can be anything. It can be other like dating relationships, and we get ourselves stuck in this stuff. And God said, hey, you don't have to be that way. You have freedom in me. And so we can learn two things throughout the whole book of Judges. See, the last part, I think it's the last verse, actually, of all of it. They went through the whole thing, 21 chapters, and in 21:25 it says, in those days Israel still had no king, and everyone did as he saw fit. They never learned. I want everybody eyes up here. How often do you find yourself trapped in the same things, doing it over and over and over again? How often do you find yourself doing the same things and getting in trouble for the same things and find yourself in the same mistakes over and over? And this is what we see in Judges. Groups of people that God said, I have something better for you. And yet they chose to do the same thing and have the same mistakes and have the same heartbreak and have the same consequences. So we learn two things here, especially from Samson. One, we learn that apathy can be deadly. Apathy. It's not a word you use all the time. Does anybody know what apathy means? No. All right, I'm going to teach it. Yes, apathetic is a word. Apathetic means we just don't care. It means you just don't care. It's not like I feel one way or the other towards it. It's like when you have studied or you tried to do homework over and over and you keep getting C's, so you're finally like, why bother? Who cares? I'm just going to get a C anyway. So if I study, I got a C. If I didn't study, I got a C. So who cares? It is the same thing of getting upset in a relationship or friendships. When you constantly have drama in your life and you're like, who cares? It's just going to end up this way anyway. It's when you just stop caring about stuff. And what we learn from Samson is when we just stop caring and only make it about ourselves, then nothing takes place. All book of Judges, they had all this opportunity and the people just stopped caring. And that's why it's so important that on that final judge, it said the people, they didn't cry out. God still saw the need for them, but they didn't cry out because they didn't care anymore. They just accepted it. We accept where we're at. We accept bad stuff that just takes place to us. We accept a life that's less than what God has for you. And so we don't have to do that. And the other thing, what I really want you guys to catch is over and over and over, we see that God was faithful. Even when they didn't cry out, even when they didn't cry out for a judge anymore, God was still there answering their prayers. Even though they weren't like, God help me, God was still working in their lives. We see over and over and over how faithful God was, that no matter what they did, no matter how many mistakes they made, no matter what garbage they had gotten themselves into, no matter if it was the same thing, it says God was still there for them, trying to get their attention, trying to say, there is something better for you. And I think when you look at this book of Judges and you look at that, and you remember that in your own life, keep that with you, remembering my God is faithful. That no matter what I do, he is still going to be there. No matter the choices, no matter the mistakes I've made, God is there. And so you look at Samson's life, you look at the Judges, and you take away all the crazy stuff that took place in there. But I want you to ask yourself this question right now, just real fast tonight as we wrap up. I just want you to think, is the life I'm living right now, like, am I happy with it? Am I happy with my decisions, and am I happy with the consequences that they have right now? Just think about that real quick, just to yourself. What if there was something more? Are some of the junk that I'm not happy about because of my own choices? When you think about that. See, we're so often ready to blame everybody else. Well, it's because of my friends. It's because they made me do this. Well, yeah, it's because of this. It's because of this. But think about, are you happy with where you're at right now? And what if you just said, I wonder if God has something better for me? What if we didn't accept it and say, you know what? I don't have to live this way. There is something more for me. And we can learn from Judges and say, I don't have to live like they did then. I can be the one that follows God. What if Israel started following after God? How much different would their story have been? What if Samson followed after God? How much different would his story have been? How much different would your story be? And so just use that and think, God, if there's stuff going on in your life right now that you're like, I need something more. I don't want this. I'm going to encourage you, like, give that stuff to God. As we wrap up with our last worship song, and you guys can come on up, I just want that to be your prayer tonight of, God, I want something more. I don't want to just accept this. And so maybe you're doing really well in your walk with Christ. Then I would just say, start praying and saying, God, how can you use me? How can you use me to be the leader that I could be? And if you're in a situation where you find yourself like Israel, just constantly in this up and down mode, then start praying about how you can get out of that. You don't have to just accept it. And so we can learn from them. Learn from the Judges. Learn from the mistakes they made so that you don't have to make those anymore. So we're going to wrap up in worship. And I just want to encourage you to give those things over to God if there's something going on in your life. If you need to talk to a leader afterwards or during worship, we can talk back in the room back there or just sitting over here. Just do something with it, guys. What we don't want to do is just say, well, this is just the way it is, so I guess I'll just keep doing what I'm doing. If God's got something in your heart, give it over to him. So go and stand on up. Let's pray, and then we'll kind of wrap up our evening here tonight. God, I thank you for the examples, and some of them are good examples in Judges, and some of them are just bad examples of people of, here's how we don't want to live. But God, I know there are some young men and some young women in this room right now. They're looking at their life and realizing I'm in that same circle of things are good, and then I make choices, and now things are awful. Things are good, and now they're awful. And God, I pray that we don't accept that. That we can bring those things to you and say, here, God, here's what's going on in my life. I choose to follow you. I want to follow your plan. And so, God, let our students be just honest with themselves and honest with you tonight as we end in worship of just giving those things to you and choosing to be used by you in a positive way. Amen.
you're never gonna let me down. Oh, you're never gonna let me down. 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 Oh, you're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You are good. You are good. You're good. You are good. You're good. You are good. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let me down. You're never gonna let
Hey, just a reminder, guys. So next Wednesday, we will not be here, okay? Everybody needs to be at Fall Escape. You'll get dropped off there next Wednesday. Yeah, next Wednesday. So get signed up for that. Hey, guys, it's so important you start making sure your friends get signed up. If you are still planning on inviting someone, get them signed up. All the stuff's out there now, so make sure you check everything. Invite. But hey, we don't meet next Wednesday here, but the Wednesday after that will be November, which is crazy already. So that will be our next EXL. So the next time we meet here will be our EXL fight night. So we will have nachos and food and stuff and drinks for that night. And then if you don't know what it is, here's Marcus fighting Jack last year. So we will have our sumo suits fight night taking place in here, kind of like what we did the rodeo night, and just having a blast going back and forth between teaching and songs and games and stuff. And then it's just going to be a fun time. So those are a bunch of opportunities for you guys to invite, reach out, be a part of things. So you got Fall Escape, high school, you got Corn Maze this week, Saturday. Then you got XL, Escape, all this stuff. And what is this, 8th graders? 8th graders, you guys have a Halloween party coming up. It's not going to cost you anything, so don't check out the $5 or $10. We are covering the cost for that. You just need to bring a pumpkin, and it'll be a great night. More will come out on that on Sunday, though, so don't worry. So, guys, hey, lots of stuff coming up. Invite Escape, invite XL, and you guys, hey, go have a great week. Learn from the things you talked about here tonight, and have a great week. We'll see everybody on Sunday morning, all right? Have a good one. Hey, stack your chairs up in the back if you can for me, please. Balls.